Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Saturday, March the 8th, 2025. Another warm one this morning. It's going to be in the 30s again today, so short walk for Neil and I today. It does tend to struggle, as I always tend to say on this video, don't I? Or this channel on my videos, but it's the first thing that sort of springs to my mind when I'm walking about, whether it's a good day or it's a bad day. Today is a beautiful day, just a bit warm. Anyway, on to the boxing. And I was going to say the fallout of the TKO Boxing League is still sort of still resonating around the boxing world. And it was actually really good to see Eddie Hearn actually comment on the whole thing. And what was even stranger, weirder, whatever you might want to call it, was that he wasn't fussed. He's like, yeah, well, because someone must have asked him, well, what does this mean as far as the relationship between yourself and Turkey Al Sheikh goes? He went, yeah, well, if it ends, it ends. We'll still do our 35 shows a year, and we'll still do or maybe involved in Riyadh season I'll still do. So yeah, I'm not too bothered about the whole thing, which is really strange. He did also obviously admit that he's made a lot of money from Turkey Al Sheikh. Come here, man. Come on, buddy. Got a car backing out right in front of us. Come on. That's not what you want to see or hear. But yeah, he did say he wasn't fussed about the whole thing, which, as I said, I thought was a very, very strange thing to say. He said he doesn't think it will work. He thinks the UFC model is completely different to what the boxing model will be. He said it's great in theory, like I think we've all said, fantastic in theory. But whether they can pull off getting that stable of fighters, getting them to fight each other and the same setup. He did make a good point. He said, look, when Dana White started UFC, it was in its very formative years. I think there might have been a couple of organisations around, but you can remember how basic and primitive the UFC was when it started. And the Ultimate Fighting Championship was just that. It was just no weight divisions just thrown in there, and it was just a free-for-all. But he built it from the ground up. The issue he's got here, and I know I'm sort of going over old ground a little bit, but Eddie Hearn was sort of repeating what I was sort of saying, is that the difference with boxing is that it's already established. It's already fragmented as well. How do you bring it all together? And if simply just creating another organisation is going to fix everything, I'm not so sure. Tough ask. If they can pull it off, it will be massive. But if you haven't got people like Eddie Hearn on board straight off the bat, how does that work? So you would think that Oscar De La Hoya will be in the same boat. And I'm surprised we haven't heard from him, no doubt. We might hear back in the clapback Thursday or wherever, or Turkey Al Sheikh's now Oscar. Or he said, now Oscar, do not do anything online about this, because him and Dana, of course, hate each other. So yeah, I don't know. But look, again, Eddie Hearn made a good point. He said, well, boxing's not broken. Boxing's not broken. It's probably never been healthier. And it will continue to be healthy whether they do the league or not. So again, I was just really taken aback that Eddie just shrugged his shoulders and said, yeah, well, they can do what they want to do. He said, if my relationship ends with Turkey Al Sheikh tomorrow, he said, all good. He said, we've made a lot of money. We've been successful together, and we move on. Staggering comments from a guy who's probably making tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars a year from Turkey Al Sheikh. But it looks like he's got a new best mate. I suppose that's the most obvious thing. There's Turkey Al Sheikh. Him and Dana White are our best buddies, and the ball is in their court. But again, it'll be interesting to see what Oscar has to say. Whether he is is dismissive as what Eddie Hearn was, or whether he will play ball. I just don't see it that he will play ball with Dana White. I can't see it. But again, I agree with Eddie when he said that the sport's not broken. Do we really need this? Do we just need... Is just introducing another sanctioning body, pretty much. Well, not a sanctioning body, but another promotional company, just muddying the waters even further by having a fifth belt. So Turkey Al Sheikh, though, if you would have seen the press conference yesterday with Canelo Alvarez and William Scull in Saudi Arabia, did not allow the sanctioning body's belts on stage. There was no WBA, WBC, WBO or IBF belts. Actually, I think it was IBF on there. I'm not sure because William Scull's got that one. I don't remember whether he had that or not. But Eddie Hearn, so Canelo's trainer, actually went to carry up the WBC belt, and Turkey Al Sheikh looked at him and said, "Nope, not coming up." WBA, IBF, WBA and WBO as well. So it was just the Ring Magazine belt and another belt that I think was promoting the video game or something. So is this the start? Well, it's not. If it is the start of starting to not recognise the other belts and start to try and phase them out and get the boxing public to start pretty much mentally phasing them out as well. So will we get a situation where with the Ring Magazine, of which Turkey Al Sheikh owns, are we now about to see the rival sanctioning body's belts not recognised? A little bit like BoxRec with the WBA. Different reasons, of course, but do we not see fighters on the Ring Magazine listed as a WBC, WBA, WBO or IBF world champion? So has it started, the takeover? Well, I think it's already started. I think we know that. It started a couple of years ago when Turkey Al Sheikh came into it. Is this the first? Was yesterday, it's only a small thing, but was Turkey Al Sheikh on stage shaking his head at Eddie Hearn, who quickly said, yes sir, dropped the belt? Is it now the first phase of him putting his foot down and saying, all right, there's a new sheriff in town, or the sheriff's been in town for a little while, but he's played nice. Now the sheriff's going to start cleaning house, and he's going to start not recognising those belts. He's going to start maybe blackballing those who don't want to play ball with him. And maybe the talk's already been had with Eddie Hearn about his role, because he seemed very, very chill about the whole thing. And that was actually his exact words. I'm chill. I'm chilled about whatever happens. Again, not the sort of comments you would expect to hear from Eddie Hearn, who was Turkey Al Sheikh's first ally in boxing and really gave himself to Turkey Al Sheikh and all his resources and everything, and they've done great things together. Has Turkey Al Sheikh either enhanced what he's doing with boxing, or has he actually started his own little mini downfall by almost sort of turning his back on Eddie and in turn Oscar, and aligning himself with Dana White, who's got a very, very mixed reaction when it comes to the power brokers of combat sports out there? Interesting. I know, look, a lot of the watchers of this channel, a lot of fans in general are loving it. Fantastic. And I hope they're right. I really do. But I just go by, the 40 odd years I've been following boxing and how it works. And again, I've just got doubts on whether it can happen. But let's see. But again, I just wanted to mention Eddie because it was very, very strange that he would just pretty much say, whatever. Waiting De La Hoya's comments. Now, just on Canelo as well. So, of course, I had the press conference. He wasn't being drawn into the Terence Crawford fight. Everyone just wanted to talk about that, and not really worrying about the Skull fight. Now, he did, with a stern face and, well, a serious face, whatever you might want to call it, did say, no, I'm only focused on this fight. Well, he's not, because he's going to get a massive, massive payday against Crawford later in the year. But he said he thinks it will surpass the Floyd Mayweather fight back in 2013. And I was there in Vegas for that fight. 2.2 million views that fight got. I don't think this gets there. I think Canelo is a massive name, just like he was back then. You've got to remember, back in 2013, Floyd Mayweather was the biggest name in boxing, the biggest, or the most marketable fighter, just the biggest name, just an absolute Goliath in the world of boxing. He was it, in the midst of that HBO 24/7 series and everything else that he was doing. He was just it. And Canelo was that absolute superstar coming up. I remember being at a Mayweather fight. I can't remember which one it was, and Canelo fought on the undercard. And the crowd, I mean, it was just an undercard fighter, 3 or 4 fights deep into the card. But everyone's saying, look at this kid, look at this kid. This guy's going to be a superstar. The place was packed. This is early on in the card. Place was packed with the Mexican fans loving Canelo. And this is before all the shit that's gone on. I know he's divided a few people over the years for different reasons, but this is when Mexico was universally, not just Mexico, but the boxing world, but particularly Mexican fans for obvious reasons, were absolutely just going berserk over this young kid from Mexico. He's Canelo Alvarez, the next superstar. And he signed to fight Mayweather out of the blue in 2013. He was only, 22, 23. A lot of people thought it was way too early for him, but he wanted to fight. Mayweather, of course, knew, being the businessman that he is, that a fight with Canelo would just be absolutely massive. And he wanted to obviously get him early because he only had a couple of years left in the sport as well. But he jumped on quick, and look, a lot of people said he sort of cherry-picked Canelo, but I don't sort of agree with that, because when they did fight, Canelo was a 2-time world champion, and 23, 24, whatever he was. Mayweather was 36, so I think it sort of balanced out a little bit. But I remember being at that fight. There were 16,000 people at the weigh-in. Yes, the weigh-in, and they could have got more in there. You actually had to book a ticket. You didn't have to pay, but you had to pretty much book to get in. They only had limited seats, 16,000 at a weigh-in. It was like a fight night. The guys, both fighters, did ring walks and all this sort of stuff because they had to come out of the actual change rooms. It was pretty bizarre. But the fight, I remember, was absolutely electric. It was the hottest ticket in town, around the country, around the boxing world. That was it. It was probably the precursor to Mayweather and Pacquiao. That's how big it was. And I actually argue to some extent it was bigger, the interest, because the Mexican fans were just all over it. So anyway, I don't think this fight comes anywhere near that. You had Mayweather, the established star, Canelo, the upcoming superstar, although, again, not really upcoming. He was a world champion, but just two mega stars that you very rarely get in boxing that fight at the same time. And of course, Mayweather-Pacquiao happened a couple of years later, but about 5 years too late. This fight, no way. Terence Crawford, not saying he's not in the same league as those guys, but he just hasn't got the appeal. And you think that in the current stage right at the moment, Canelo, while he still is the face of boxing, still is the biggest name in boxing, does he have that same appeal? A lot of people are a little bit over or a little bit tired, and it does happen. They get a little bit tired of fighters, and he's just, you know, I don't think a lot of fans have been too impressed with him not fighting Benavidez, and it just seems to be the same old limited fighter after limited fighter that he's blowing out. It's not really, his fault, by the way, apart from the Benavidez one. You can only fight who's there for you. And it's not really his fault that a lot of the fighters he's fighting haven't really been marketable. They haven't really been big stars. They haven't really, been anyone of note. They've been good fighters, they've been mandatories and world champions, all that sort of stuff, but they just haven't really hit the note with the boxing fans out there. And it's almost like it's got a bit pedestrian, a bit monotonous with what he's been doing. I don't think he's got that same appeal that he used to. And Terence Crawford certainly hasn't got the appeal. So I'm probably thinking, look, maybe with the exposure boxing has these days, there's probably a lot more than what it was 12 years ago. But I'm still thinking sort of maybe 1.5 tops. And I think I'm being generous in that. Look, I hope I'm wrong, but I wouldn't see any more than, say, 1.5 million. As I said, a lot of people are tired of Canelo or not happy with Canelo or a bit over it. Oh, who knows? But Terence Crawford certainly doesn't hit the notes with the boxing fans out there. People respect him. They admire him. He's been a great champion, but is he that sort of superstar? You look back to those big fights, Hagler, Leonard Hearns, of course, as I said, Canelo, Mayweather, Pacquiao, all these, De La Hoya, Trinidad, all these, and De La Hoya, Mayweather. I'm just rattling off a few here. But Canelo, Crawford, as good a fight that it's going to be. Just excuse that wind there. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the fight, but I'm certainly not getting the chills down the spine that I would get, or I did get in some of those other super fights that we've had. So anyway. Now, on to yesterday, we had, another addition to the Australian boxing circus as far as I'm concerned. The Keith Thurman, Brock Jarvis, what do you call it? The fight that's on, in 4 days' time. Is it just me, or is Brock Jarvis, come here, man, making it really hard to get behind him. I don't know what it is, whether it's just me, the way he was carrying on at the press conference, or the open workouts, this is not the Brock Jarvis I knew. I know it's a long time ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever it is, just a quiet, humble sort of battler from New South Wales who was really, reminded me a little bit of Jeff Fennick, actually, that battler who was just training hard and fighting often and just trying to get up the mountain, to now just being, he's becoming a little bit unlikable, and I don't like to say that about a fighter. Now, I might be wording it wrong, but I'm just finding it very hard to get behind Brock, and it's just the little things. I mean, look, the whole carrying on thing and the going back and forth with Keith, I just don't think it's him, and I've said that on this channel before. I just don't think it's him. He's not that guy. And then when, again, I know it's only a small thing, I'm probably showing my age, but in front of all the reporters and all the people in attendance at the open workout, including kids and everyone else, F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb. I understand they get emotional, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be a prude or anything like that. I understand it's the build up to a fight. They're 5 days out. Lots of emotion, lots of excitement, lots of adrenaline. They want to play up. They've been told to play it up to the cameras. But surely you can do it with a little bit of class. I don't remember seeing all those sort of great fighters from the past, whether it be in Australia or overseas, having to just carry on like that. And it seems so forced and so awkward that it comes off even more cringeworthy. Now, again, I like Brock, but this is probably where he needs a Jeff Fennick around him to pull him in the line. I know he's told, and I'll mention Jeff in a second, but I know he's told Jeff that he's his own man now, he's an adult, and that's fine, or act like one. I just think he's been hanging around with a lot of those rugby guys a little bit too much. And my advice to get the Australian boxing public behind you, you have a little bit of humbleness about you. That's why a lot of fans, they love Tim Tszyu. Yeah, he's had a few things to say here and then, but he always has respect. He's always humble and always has a level of, respect for his opponent in the build-up. Not this whole just back and forth and just like they're out on a Saturday night down the street full of piss with their mates behind them, sort of slagging each other off across the road. I just don't like it. Keith Thurman, he did get a little bit heated as well, but he's been around the block so many times. You can see he's very, very comfortable with it, very, very good at it, and he has got that vibe, even though there was obviously a few F-bombs going there, which I'm not against, by the way. But do it sort of in the context of thing, not just, oh, Keith, let's look at those shoes, and just don't like it. Anyway, maybe it's just the Aussie sort of slang part of it, I don't know, but Jeff Fennick had his say on the whole thing as well, and of course he's 100% confirmed now he's not going to be in the corner. And a really good interview, by the way, by Jay McAllister with Jeff. I think he got Jeff to open up a little bit more than we've seen in this whole situation. You could see that Jeff is, I won't go as far as to say he's broken, but you can see he's deeply hurt by the whole thing. And I would think, even though he did open up somewhat, you get the feeling he would really like to open up and say, you selfish, unappreciative, spoiled little bastard. You almost get the impression he's just itching to say that. Maybe he said that out loud, behind closed doors with Brock. Who knows? But you just get the impression he'd love to go, but he was very held back. He did say he's disappointed. He wishes Brock all the best. He will be at the fight and hopes he wins, but won't be involved. You can see he's deeply hurt. Now, say what you will about Jeff Fennick, but one thing you'll get with Jeff, he puts his heart on his sleeve. He's very loyal to those around him, and if you're in the gang, you're in the gang. He'll do anything for you. And if you leave the gang for any reason and you break his heart, he finds it very hard to get over. And you can see that in this instance here. He looks hurt by what's happened. You can see that Brock means a lot to him. Come here, man. And he's found it a little bit difficult to get his head around the fact that he's been told that he's not wanted by someone that he loves and has known since he was a kid. So in his corner will be his dad, his brother, and who's the rugby guy? Curtis Scott will be in his corner as well. And Curtis Scott was holding the pads for him yesterday, and just have a look at the vision and you'll see what I'm talking about. Apparently he's going to be the chief second in the ring. A rugby player with a handful of fights who took up boxing, what, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. He's going to be the chief second when Brock Jarvis takes on a multi-time world champion. So there you go. And his dad in the corner for good measure. You know, he'll give him a drink of water, maybe rinse his mouth guard, and he's got his brother who I'm sure will do a great job of putting the stool in the ring. Can't wait to see what happens. You know, let's say after the third round, Brock comes back, he's been hurt, he's been cut. What now, boys? What now? What happens at the weigh-in when Keith Thurman maybe causes some shenanigans and rolls out a few tricks and pulls a few stunts before the fight with maybe gloves or the weight or whatever it might be? Then what, guys? Who's going to take the wheel? That's what I want to know. But anyway, best of luck to Brock. But my advice to him, not that he'd give a shit anyway, but my advice to him is, mate, just, it's okay to maybe try and be a bit more extroverted. It's okay to try and sell the fight, but just be humble and respectful at the same time, mate. Not just to your opponent, but to the fans out there that are watching and want to get behind you. So there's my little soapbox speech of the day, my dad's speech. Brock, just toned it down a little bit anyway. But no, it's all in good fun. And as I said yesterday, I still am really looking forward to the fight. I think I'm really interested to see what Brock has to offer and whether he's good as what he's saying he is, and whether he can get Keith Thurman out of there. I do agree with him on one thing though. Keith Thurman, what are you doing with those shoes, mate? Come on. If you didn't see them, they're like runners with 5 toes. Not a cool look, Keith. So I don't know what's going on in the trends over in America, but maybe before you come to a country like Australia, explore our trends over here. Maybe a pair of thongs would have sufficed. Anyway, so guys, have a great Saturday. We'll catch you tomorrow.